There we go. How's it going, everybody? Those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt. I'm your brand strategy. There you go. We got lower thirds and everything. I'm your brand strategy lead here at Gun, and I'm joined by.
Hey everyone, I'm Sid. I'm the community manager here at Gun. Welcome.
And if you have been kind of keeping up with some of the chatter on socials and things like that, we've been talking a bit about wanting to run this stream to give you guys a little more context behind what's going into the upcoming patch. You know, the big patch trademark. We've got our friend here. I saw somebody in chat say
Honorary.
we need that Nugget better be on camera. So we've got Nugget. We're all good. I think we're all set. How do we sound? Hopefully everything lights, audio, we're all good to roll. But like I said, we have a couple of items on our list that we want to run through. We felt they were important enough to, spend a little more time talking about them and give you guys a little more context on what exactly we're doing with this big patch outside of the Muerto times. But we also felt that running a second Muerto times might confuse the messaging. We know you guys expect to see the times and then see the patch, and then we're rolling, we're rocking, we're doing our thing. So we figured let's give this desk setup a run, which, as you can see, this is our desk setup. This is where we do our news. This is very, very important business goes on here. We wanted to give the desk setup a trial run and talk over some of these things. So we will get some questions from chat and all of that. I'll be keeping an eye on chat here, and we'll try to tackle a few of those at more toward the end of the stream. But before we go too far, Sid, why don't you jump in with our first list item?
Yeah, I'm going to start off. And so one of the first changes that y'all are going to be able to see is that victims are now going to start off with a 60-second cooldown on their abilities at the start of a match. This change is brought to you by just us wanting to kind of incentivize stealth play and trying to stop some of the rush meta that we've seen in game.
Yeah, I would say that one of the coolest things about this change, though, also is the basement gameplay is going to see a lot of differences after this patch goes live. If you tuned into the last stream, you know that the Leatherface requirement is being lifted. Now, obviously, you can still choose Leatherface and you might start in the basement. But we did see a lot of questions, actually, from people saying, will that change who starts in the basement? Will another family member be in the basement? And that's not the case. The situation with Leatherface not being required, the game stays the same. So you have an opportunity there where if you so choose, you might bring a different, cast of characters to the family side. This change also could see that, that would obviously impact basement gameplay. This change is going to impact basement gameplay. It's basically a little cooldown that's going to give you a little buffer room on how soon those Connies are popping locks or Lelands are throwing shoulders into people or,
It brings me to the next point that I've got to make, and it's that noise is now going to start to follow victims for a few seconds. So when you are spamming that toolbox, when you're going through that bone pile, when you're running through bone charms, if you set off a nugget,
there you go.
You slam a door, those noise pings will follow you for a little bit.
This was interesting. One of the things that I think bears mentioning here, all of the noise right now that you make, aside from, say, coughing over sissy poison or things like that, all of the noise that you make kind of stays where you made the noise. And so we were seeing a lot of things with sandbagging teammates. You run through, you grab something real quick, and then your other stealthy teammate is standing there like, what the hell, man? You kind of brought them to me. So now that noise ping is going to stick to you a little bit. So if you sprint through bone charms, you used to be able to sprint through the bone charms and then that was it. The noise would kind of stay there. A good Leatherface knows where you might have been, or a good family member knows where you might go from there, but it didn't stick to you. Now it will. And I think that's going to really change how that all plays.
Yeah, again, we're just trying to kind of incentivize stealth where we can. And if you do still want to rush, at least you'll know that these are some of the changes coming up.
And, before we get into number 3, it's kind of like we discussed on the last stream where we talked about, speedy play should be allowed. We're not trying to say you can't play speedy. If you choose to play fast, that's your call. It should be punishing, though, and this is part of that move toward, hey, stealth is rewarding and speedy is possible, viable, but there's punishments there. So,
all right. The next point I have is that victims will now stop leaving footprints for Johnny to follow if they're moving at the slowest pace while crouching, which means if you're crouch walking, Johnny will no longer be able to see footsteps from you when he's using his tracking ability.
And again, just to contextualize a little bit, we talked about the change to the cook where he won't be able to hear you if you're crouched and you're moving slowly. So if you're crouched and you're moving at that walking pace, right? This kind of goes hand in hand with that. And again, you know, there's a lot of victim mains out there who are probably already like, oh, victim nerfs, it's all victim nerfs. But this is somewhat of a nerf to the family side, somewhat of a nerf to Johnny, similar to how the Cook move is somewhat of a nerf to the Cook. And again, the greater point here is this plays into that concept of playing stealthy is rewarding. So now you can avoid some of those kind of opportunities to get detected by, you know, moving slowly, you know, staying crouched, those kinds of things.
Yeah, we just want people to be able to play matches for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
The next thing I have on the docket is that we're actually going to be changing the position of detection at escape gates. So what this means is that once a player has crossed the gate, it will now trigger as they've escaped. This change is to kind of help prevent players from being able to camp and teabag at exits from outside of the gate. We're looking at you, Slaughterhouse.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, this is all directly Wes's fault because he refused to put the truck in that comes out and kills victims in the road randomly. So rather than having them dancing out there with no truck to run them over, similar to the bus I threw Wes under, there's going to be the escape volume is much closer to the gate. So like I think of gates on say Slaughterhouse or on the back exit of Family House where you have that long run out where they could go around the corner and hide and then do some trickery and they dance when Grandpa goes off and shit like that. You know, that's going to be nipped in the bud. So the minute you step outside of that gate, you're beat.
Yeah, you're gone. So
yeah.
You know, do your sensual teabagging maybe not
yeah,
before
yeah.
that.
just teabag inside the gate. That's all. I'm gonna get attacked.
I know.
For that.
Here, let me go into the next thing. Speaking of some changes, we're going to be making some improvements to gas station. We're now going to be changing where the fuse pickup locations are, so they're not going to spawn so close to the fuse box. And we're pretty excited to see how that's going to play out in gameplay now, just because sometimes they'd spawn pretty close to one another, and it'd be not the way that we intended for that to play out.
I mean, the people were sharing straight up screenshots with us on Reddit where the fuse was here and directly across the walkway that was the fuse box, and it's like you could just grab the fuse and go straight to the fuse box. And that, you know, these are things that we uncover with the help of you guys playing the game, you know, hours and hours and hours on end, because these random systems and things that place spawn locations and, you know, what you're looking at there is a system where the fuse box can spawn in a couple different locations, the fuses can spawn in a couple different locations, and every now and then they synchronize and you get silly things like that. So with, you know, millions, I guess at this point it's safe to say, of hours of gameplay, these are things that get uncovered. And so, yeah, this is more a bit of a maintenance one, but we did want to mention it because we had seen so many screenshots of people going, are you kidding? This is right here. And yeah,
and
that makes it a little high profile.
Speaking of, I just want to shout out our subreddit, which you can join. Andy's not on this stream, but he is in chat, so you can give him a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy's hanging out in there. And we also have a Mighty Mel in the chat, too, handling some of the mod duties. So, and of course, we're joined by Rob, our producer, hanging out over there. He's pushing buttons and dials and levers and things. So
what's up, you guys?
Yeah, there you go. There's Rob. So, yeah, basically that whole idea of tuning little items like that with those fuse boxes, there's going to be a lot of those. That's not something that we're ever really going to kind of, you know, maybe some point down the line we'll be done with, but for the most part, keep those things coming up. And if you can find screenshots, that's the most helpful thing because, again, we're talking about overlapping randomizers that kind of sync up every now and then. So send those screenshots into support.txchainsawgame.com. I see questions. Excuse me one second. I see questions. We're going to get to those. We have a couple more items to talk about, so don't think I'm ignoring you. I've actually made some mental notes about a few, and we'll talk about them in a minute.
All right, the next thing, speaking of tuning, we're going to be talking about Cook in this next point. We're changing how his ability charge ticks down. So now the way that it's going to work is that it's going to tick down correctly while being actively used as opposed to just honing in and focusing in on a victim. And this is to help with Cook's spamming ability, which we saw plenty of speaking in the subreddit of the Cook has heard you, Cook has heard you. So we heard you.
Yeah, you know, the situation with Cook too, Cook got a little bit of a change to his ability. You can crouch and walk and avoid it, but also there were a lot of people that kind of realized that if you pick up the sound ping and tell the direction, his ability doesn't start ticking away yet. So they could say to their friends, oh, they're over there, they're over that way, they're at the front gate, they're over there. It wasn't until he focused in that the ability would start pulling, right? And that shouldn't be the case. If you're in that ability, there should be a drain there. So again, I know it's somewhat of a cooked nerf, but once in a while we have to nerf the family too. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna get attacked for that one too. I'm digging my own grave.
And again, all of this goes into we want matches to be able to play out longer and more interestingly for some people, because we saw that a lot in their subreddit, and we just want to incentivize stealth and strategic gameplay on both ends.
Yeah, playing with intent.
Yeah. And I have one last point to bring up, and then we'll kind of start going into chat and talking and ask questions with you all. And so this is more of a fixing an issue. We fixed an issue where the All Victims Killed XP event would apply even when all victims had not been killed. So that means that family players will see a slight change in XP at the end of their matches compared to what you've been used to seeing. With that change, we just kind of wanted to make mention with that. Just because it'll probably be noticeable, especially the more that you've played. So we just wanted to be as transparent about that as possible.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to panic over this. We did recently buff family XP values, and so that's awesome and working out great, and the feedback has been awesome about that. But it was kind of giving you a bonus for something you didn't do, so we kind of had to pull that one. That being said, I know there's going to be a lot of panic and people going, well, now family XP is going to be rough. Let's just keep talking and keep the lines of communication open, and we can obviously continue to evaluate that. So, the first question that I saw in chat that I feel we really should talk a little more about is in regards to how Leatherface plays now. A lot of you are upset, worried, kind of concerned maybe about the Leatherface requirement. Others are, 100% behind the change, and that's great. But just to give a little more clarity on that, the requirement is lifted, but that doesn't mean that anything else in the game changes. Similar to how, you have to have a cook in order to put an extra padlock on. You have to have a hitchhiker for traps. If you choose not to run a Leatherface, the game is going to look the same as it did previously. That's the risk you're running by choosing not to run a Leatherface. Now, team composition, I know there's a lot of, I don't want to say high-level players, but players who have sunk a lot of time into their different family members outside of Leatherface. They are 100% confident running in there with Hitchhiker, Sissy, and Cook, maybe. There's going to be other squads that need a Leatherface in order to make it happen, but part of this is it leaves a lot more to the team, the players, to choose what synergies they want to aim for, and I think that we made a mistake by talking a little too much about, oh, you're going to miss Leatherface. You are. I think you are going to miss Leatherface. But I also think that there's a lot of synergies that you're going to be able to see now that maybe weren't possible before.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how matches play out now. It's going to be interesting to kind of be able to see in real time how the community and you all feel about being able to play these different matches and different runs with different teams. As always, you can always talk to us in our subreddit. We see it, we listen to feedback, and we're going to be tuning along as we always say we will and do.
Yeah, nothing's ever permanent, too. Live games are fun like that. We can tinker, we can tune. But, the situation with Leatherface, so just to say it plainly, because I know some people are going to go, but you didn't really answer me. To say it plainly, barricades are still going to be there. You will get looped on barricades, possibly. Victims are trying not to die. That's going to happen. You're going to have to figure out ways around those barricades, like Hitchhiker Sissy. They can move through gaps and crawl spaces and things like that. But yeah, barricades are staying, and if you don't bring Leatherface, you might miss him. Another question I had seen was about Bomb Squad and perks in general. I saw a couple other questions about perks in general. I just wanted to touch on that because there are going to be changes coming to perks. We have plans to tune up a lot of our perks in game, but we're kind of putting that all together into one perk-focused patch. It's a lot of P words, so I hope that the windscreen on my mic is holding out. We want to put together a perk patch where we're going to go through and look at, a variety of either best in slot perks and evaluate those for potential changes. Some of the underutilized ones, are there perks that we need to, consider removing and replacing? Are there ones that we just need to rework? And so there's been a lot of great feedback on Reddit, socials everywhere. Everywhere that you guys talk to us, there's been a lot of great feedback on which perks you enjoy, which ones you think are a little OP or a little underpowered, and which ones you feel are just flat out useless. We're taking all of that in. We're going to evaluate and put that together. But similar to how we told you guys, we're working on the big patch. We're working on a perk patch. That's not something that can really be, snuck in here and there, a line or two, because then it ends up feeling, it needs to be all encompassing, and it needs to be across the board, touch all the perks, rework some metagame things, and get that figured out. So yeah, Black Girl Victim when? Honestly, we answered this in our last stream. Really what it comes down to is the characters that we have they're designed, and as long as they fit and make sense in the design, they go into the game. We don't really add characters off of like some checklist that we need to do, but we have a lot of cool things coming for characters. Speaking of, we have Nancy and Danny coming to the game. Which,
Hype.
we wanted to get the word out. We also have a new map coming. I think some of you guys picked that up. You saw a field of sunflowers, and I feel like you guys figured out what that meant. I'm shocked that I'm not hearing a whole lot of questions about them, which I think is interesting. Oh, new map.
Oh,
there
yeah,
there's some.
chat's going off.
Yeah, any update on the skill tree? What particularly are you looking to hear about the skill tree? Because as I said just a moment ago, we're going to be evaluating perks and things like that, trying to make sure that those separate branches within the skill tree, there's loadouts in there outside of just the one best in slot. So what I think we need to focus on most is making sure that there's a lot more viability in more than just a few perks in each loadout tree. But as far as that concept, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. We have talked a lot about people saying, let me have a loadout for each different branch of the skill tree. And I put together an answer. I think Andy shared it with you guys on Reddit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if you go through and filter through our developer responses, you'll be able to see that. Any of our long form conversations, if you want to go a little bit more in depth, that's like the best way to reach us. Even across our other socials, that's going to be the best way for us to be able to directly see exactly like any of your qualms, your feedback, and be able to kind of engage in like what we're kind of looking at and working on and stuff like that. As Matt said, we've got a lot of stuff on the docket, and looking at perks is one of them, and we're going to be honed in and focused on that in particular.
Yeah, and the nice thing about those developer responses is it's real easy to just see what we've kind of touched on. Skill trees being one of them. The concept of having a different loadout to each different skill tree, you'll notice that there's perks in each skill tree that you have to commit to. Just saying it plainly, you have to commit. I saw actually a really great comment on Reddit from somebody mentioning Bomb Squad. So if you go down the route to get Bomb Squad to face off, you want to be able to combat hitchhiker traps. Being able to go, oh, there's no hitchhiker in here, so now undo all that and just throw on a different loadout. Those commitments to branches in the tree, in my mind, are kind of important. And so we're going to try and make sure that there's more in each branch to motivate builds. But here's a question. I'm assuming it's specifically for Sid.
Oh.
Favorite Lana album?
Oh. Yes,
It's okay,
I've got my LDR jacket on. That's a hard question. Born to Die is great, and Norman fucking Rockwell.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the name of the album. Probably my two favorite Lana albums, but I like everything by her. So thanks for asking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I saw it come through, and I was like, oh, we got to get that one. What about Russian language? I see that's confirmed coming. Sid, if you want to talk on that a bit. I think when can we expect to see that? I believe we've cleared that up.
I think it's very soon. We're going to have some news on that. Maybe not this patch, but maybe
I think it's Quality of Life 2.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you're okay. I just didn't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I believe it's going to be in our next upcoming patch. We've heard a lot of feedback on Russian and, can I say the other one?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really excited about this one. Portuguese.
Yeah.
It's in Portuguese for Quality of Life 2. We're really excited to be able to share something like that with you all. We saw a lot of people asking for that, so it feels cool we're doing it.
Yeah, like we said, that's not necessarily this upcoming patch, but the patch after. And again, you'll hear from us. We've got patch notes coming together. If you've seen the Muerto Times, you've seen that there's over 250 fixes in this. So these patch notes are going to be a doozy. We're going to be putting those together and getting those published probably a little closer to the patch date, which is another cool thing we can talk about. We have a date for the patch. I'm going to let Sid give this good news.
November 28th.
Yeah.
Mark it in your calendars.
November 28th, we have the patch. We have content. We have all kinds of fun stuff. We also have our patch notes coming just before the 28th. We'll be sharing, basically the full list of 250 fixes. And like I said, that's kind of a doozy. It's going to take a little doing. Another important date to get out of the way, we will be out of office next week for the Thanksgiving holiday. So if our comms are a little more spotty, understand that we're taking a little break, be with our families, spend some Thanksgiving time. That being said, though, we will be coming back in and have quite a bit of work in order to get those 250 fixes listed for you. How long will it take for us to update this patch? I'm not sure if you're asking about the patch size, but it's probably going to be a pretty big one. Shirtless Johnny release date, please. Ooh. I don't think we can confirm a Shirtless Johnny release date, but it's coming.
Yeah,
So
it's coming.
it's promised.
Be on the lookout.
At least there's that, yeah. Matt, I would love to use Nicotero chainsaw on my pretty woman skin. I see what you're saying, being able to swap the chainsaw. Here's the thing with something like that. Nicotero being kind of a premium skin, we built him, top down to be, be a little unique, be a little more kind of individual. And so we wanted to kind of keep that skin unique to Nicotero Leatherface. Usually when you put a skin of that kind of tier out, you want to keep that stuff in one column. The reason the execution is universal, though, is because we knew that, those are the kind of things that they're more about the personality of the character than they are about the skin. But we hear your feedback on Nicotero Leatherface chainsaw. If there's any change to that, the best thing to do is talk to us. But, remember, we're talking about video games here, and so let's keep the mood light and civil. But come at us and let us know, and we can certainly report on that. Can you give us more details on Danny, Nancy? I've seen that a few times. Thanks for the new merchandise. Really, Danny and Nancy, what we can say, Danny and Nancy are going to be all new characters with... Lost your mic. Oh, my mic is lost.
Oh, did we lose?
I'm back.
Back.
My bad. A little bit of a mic problem. Again, we're running a new setup. We're going to get back to Danny and Nancy in a minute. We're running a new setup, and so there might be some things like that. So apologies, my mic cutting out. But so, Danny, Nancy, yeah, we can't really share too much at this time. What we do want to say, though, is they come with their own skill trees, which means their own kind of allotment of perks that go in there, some uniques and things like that. They come with their own new abilities. They're completely different abilities. And yeah, you're going to hear more about them in the coming days. So I got to get a little bit of good news to you guys. We have a much bigger detailed look at them coming very soon. So keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out.
All the usual places, socials, our community hub, that kind of thing.
At TX Chainsaw Game.
Everywhere. Yeah, Rob, can we run the lower third? Because, yeah, why not? Rob might be in a little bit of a mess. There you go. At TX Chainsaw Game everywhere. So when we say keep talking to us, that's what we mean. How did Johnny get his face scar? He got his face scar in Pflugerville. Fighting with some folks. He was out doing Johnny things. And somebody kind of got the jump on him. The lore behind that, I believe, is on the hub also. So you know what? I'm not going to even spoil it. Go to the hub.
Yeah, it's called The Lore of Texas. I wrote it, so you should read it.
Yeah, props. Scout Johnny Fix, he's still frustrating as victim. We get that he's frustrating, but part of that movement that you're seeing with Johnny is kind of designed into his character. So while we're obviously always looking to hear feedback and potentially tune something like that, it's at this point we're confident in saying that Johnny is not in a place where he's broken. I feel like that's an important distinction for the community. Broken versus needing, maybe a touch, maybe some tuning. That's kind of why we try to qualify these things that way. You'll see a lot of times fix and testing, tuning, those kinds of things. Let's see, any plans to bring back player rank in lobbies? No, not at this time. We're pretty confident that the things we're doing are kind of going to create, kind of a multi-faceted approach toward curbing some of that lobby dodging that you're seeing.
Yeah, we want things to run smoother for players. We want people to be able to load into games as quickly as they want to. And that was some of the changes that were measured and deliberate. We took some time to think about it. And if anything needs adjusting, you can continue to talk to us about that, and we'll look into tuning if needed. But at the moment, we feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. So the story, here's a cool one. The stories we hear on the radio, are those a mixture of game lore and actual stories that have happened? No, that's all game lore, actually. So make sure that you're listening to those radio broadcasts that you might catch. I did see a question about cook skins. Yes, we will have cook skins. We'll have hitchhiker skins. We're gonna have skins for everybody. Not just yet.
Mm-hmm.
We're focusing on, you know, the things we've shared. When the time comes to talk about those things, we'll get that news out to you guys. And I'm going to hit like another question or two. There's been some people asking about, you know, hiding maps, a couple things like that. Players are still dodging lobbies. It's not the player level. Again, we have a lot of different things that we're working toward in order to try and help curb that. But it's never going to be just one straightforward thing here or there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, the combined effort of all of those elements is going to help. And again, rather than go nuclear and come in with some giant hammer and start trying to curb the lobby dodging thing, we think that a more measured approach is going to be the way to do this.
Yeah, we kind of want to have everyone take a feel for what these changes are, how it plays out, what it looks like before we look to readjusting again.
Yeah, and then just real quick, I want to get a couple out of the way. Slaughterhouse valve, that's going upstairs. We talked about that in the last stream. We're moving the tank upstairs. That should make it much more visible and all of that. Somebody asked what the new map is actually called. It's called Nancy's House. It's her residence. You'll see a little more about that, like I said, in the coming days. Thank you guys in general. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
and let's see. How much will the new characters and skins cost? Well, new characters and skins, it's two different things. New characters, $9.99. Skins, it depends. There's some bundle options and things like that. But all of that information's up on our socials.
Mm-hmm.
And just in the name of trying to wrap this up a bit, who's the voice for the radio fella? I believe that's Lex Lang, if I'm not mistaken. And he also is the voice of Leatherface, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Aaron LaPlante. I was wrong on that. Oh, I hit my mic. I apologize. I was wrong on that one. Aaron LaPlante does the voice on the radio. So, will Nancy come with her own unique perks? And if so, will new victim perks come as well? Yes, and they come in Danny's tree and Nancy's tree, respectively. Mm-hmm. More details on that soon. We're going to pretty much wrap it up here, guys. We're getting a lot of onesie-twosie questions in here. We have our past broadcast from the community Q&A,
mm-hmm.
which answered a lot of the things we're seeing here in chat. We're going to be putting that up onto our YouTube channel as well as the past broadcast of this. We'll be able to reference them, you know, stop, pause, get all the answers and all of that. And yeah, like I said, keep an eye out soon. Nancy,
mm-hmm.
Danny, Nancy's house. Patch.
November 28th.
250 fixes in the big patch, quality of life
mm-hmm.
patch. November 28th. Content, November 28th. I don't know. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We're thankful for you.
Yeah.
Remember that we're talking about video games, everybody, and be nice to each other, and at least, you know.
Be cool, be kind.
Yeah, be cool,
Have a
be
good
kind,
time.
be nice. Yeah. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Let us know on socials what you thought about the desk setup and if we should do more of these check-ins. We like to try and keep them snappy, so thank you again for the quick stream, and we'll talk to you guys soon.